welcome back to the second day of competition here at Willinga Park. We have our first horse circling the arena. Let's Chimera and Lizzie Wilson Fellows. Lizzie Wilson Fellows is from Williamtown, New South Wales. Which is the way to go to the marker. G, of course, is on the centre line between the markers of M and F. Now, this is extended trot. So it's a bigger trot than medium trot, and she showed a difference. This horse has a nice way of going. It's kind of a square horse, so it's already looks together. This is the other side on the right rein. So in dressage, we always show both sides of the horse doing the same work. And one of the things that judges will note is whether they are a similar horse from left to right. I think Lizzie's done a pretty even pattern there. She's generally scoring on about 6.5 for each movement up to a 7. 7 means satisfactory. No, it doesn't. Having a moment. 7 is fairly good. Dear oh me, bad start. And these are the walk pirouettes. So the walk pirouettes are to judge the collection of the horse. And you might note that they turn around the inside hind leg.
And she's scoring quite well there. She's got some 7s and some 6.5s. It's quite a difficult part of the test, the collected walk, especially because we're expecting the horses to, you know, be high energy in the trot and then come back to the walk and then show, you know, that they're calm and rideable and attentive to the rider, and that's sometimes quite difficult when you're coming into a new arena. So every rider will have their own way of warming up and getting the horse ready to come into a different environment. But Lizzie looks to be doing a fairly good job this morning. First horse in is always quite difficult. It's a bit daunting. Got a fresh arena, you can lay your own tracks down there and the judges can see very clearly if you've gone on the line or not gone on the line.
So half pass in canter in both directions. Again, I'd like a little bit more position and bend, but maintaining that good quality canter, which Lizzie has, a good quality canter. And here now a half pirouette in canter. So collecting now and then turning and sitting on the hindquarters. quite good, a little bit fast in the turning. This is counter-canter, when the horse stays on the same lead, looks like it's bent to the outside, that's counter-canter. Now the same on the right side, right canter pirouette. And so you can see a difference between the two. That one a little bit more of a loss of control on the turning. It kind of went round too fast. She lost control of the outside shoulder.
So if you guys tuned in yesterday, we had a pre-St George class yesterday, and that was a national class. So we had a national class for pre-St George and an international class for the pre-St George. So obviously the international class is probably the horses of more established level, expecting to do, you know, go in front of the international judges. So, and I think we have got one horse that did both the CDN class and the CDI class, which I thought was quite clever, actually. How's she going then? Did you do your counting?
I was counting. There was a mistake in the 4s right at the end, but the 3s were better in the counting. Bold in the extended canter. And then probably took a little bit too long to collect over too many strides. So the ideal is to collect over just a couple of strides before the flying change. Lovely and straight down the centre line. Fair enough halt. A little bit low in the pole while she's standing there. But Lizzie's happy because being the first one is never easy, but also the horses, this horses can be a little bit hot under the collar, and she's coped extremely well. So she's scoring around about 65%.
And I've seen this horse quite a lot, and she's actually got better and better and better. So well done, Lizzie. We'd like to welcome you to Dressage by the Sea, and we'd like to thank the sponsor of this pre-St George CDI class, Ros Dio. We've got the second competitor entering the arena, John Thompson, and John Thompson is riding Sugarloaf Amnesty, and Amnesty is by Ampere, out of a Nook. And I'm pretty sure that a Nook is a jazz mare. Some of my absolute favourite breeding there. So John, based at Mullawa in New South Wales, running a very successful breeding and training program there at Mullawa.
This is a nice, light-moving and not very big horse. It's a good picture. John isn't one of our super tall guys, so it suits him quite well. It's got a lovely fluid.
He might be small, but he's quite mighty, isn't he?
Oh, he's quite mighty. But it's doing a nice job. The Amperes are often good trotting horses. Certainly an attractive type. And so here, extended trot, full power, full extension.
And definitely showing a difference from the medium.
That's really nice. Clear transition. Across the short side, always the picture that we're interested in seeing for the outline of the horse. And here perhaps everyone's got a little bit of a tilt, John included, to the right. It's actually quite one of those things in lateral work, is staying centred over the middle of the horse and not feeling you need to lean in either direction. Your weight might change, but not the leaning. Upper bodies are very unhelpful, if you like, in keeping balance if they're wrong. So collected walk into the walk pirouette left first of all. And he maintained the activity of the walk well in that pirouette. There's a little bit of mouth opening going on, which the judges will see. Doesn't look too unhappy at this point in the mouth, so it's always something. The judges are required to consider the welfare of the horse and comment and deduct marks if they see fit. Into the more longer framed extended walk, covering ground. It's the time when the horse is given a little rest, except that it can't rest, it just has to stretch. It's got to stay on its game, ready for the next movement, which is canter at K, which he did. Then we look at the canter across the short side, and straight away I'd be saying I want a bit more jump in that canter and more uphillness in that canter. Preparation for the canter pirouette or half pirouette. Yeah, nicely done as well. So, and of course it's reflected in the happy mark of about 69% currently. Less comfortable cantering around on the right side, came against his hand a little bit more. And of course in those changes, five changes every fourth stride, what you could see is the swinging. So straightness is a requirement. It's a desirable quality. And a little bit straighter in the 3 times.
Sometimes when the changes are closer together, like the 2s or the 3s, it sometimes can be easier to keep the horse straighter if you're forward enough, because you don't have as much time between the changes. Sometimes 4s can, in the end, become the harder ones to ride as far as keeping the horse straight.
So looking for a straight centre line, collecting into the halt. And
pretty good job.
He did a good job on. So I think he'll maintain his around about 69%. Maybe won't quite make the 70, but nevertheless, very good score. I'd just like to introduce our judges for this class and welcome them. Sitting at H is Vittorio Barber from the Philippines. At C, Maria Schwenneson from Queensland. and at B, Maria Colliander from Finland. Our next competitor is circling the arena.
We have Emma Flavel riding
Scarlatti Mio,
Scarlatti Mio.
VSR. So a different type of horse coming in, very big, also good looking. Definitely warm blood breeding has upped its game on how good looking horses can be. In the old days they used to have buffy heads and looked like clumpers, but now, so very nice big strides there, although there was a blur at the beginning. Now that's a beautiful picture across the short side.
So I've just had to have a little refer to my book, and it says that this horse is by San Amor.
Right, San Amor. I did use San Amor semen a few times in my breeding career. I don't think I've seen one before.
Out of a mare called Worldly. So I can only presume that it's by Worldly. But I may be wrong. Very impressive on the diagonal.
Yeah, you see that tremendous power, and the hindquarters are underneath the horse.
And Emma, one of our experienced competitors, and always looks in a beautiful position. Very elegant. Trending on about 71.5%, so she's really come in.
Yeah. This is it's in a lovely frame.
And rhythm.
And it doesn't look heavy, doesn't look like anyone's having to work too hard. I'm sure they are.
And lovely to see it in a snaffle. You can either ride in a snaffle, which is the single range bridle, or a double bridle, or a Weymouth bridle, which has the two bits, if you're not familiar with the types of bridles. Back in the day, once you went to Pre-St George, you used to have to wear a double bridle, and things have changed. I suppose also riding has become better, and the types of horses have become easier in a way, more suited for top-level sport, so some people opt to ride them in a snaffle. When done well, it looks very light and lovely in the snaffle.
Just gets a little bit tight in the collected walk itself. But here it can do a good job. That's a nice extension, relaxation, and taking the bridle. And you can see its hindquarter moving, which is what we call when it's going over the back. Instead of, it's got a nice waddle in its walk, and yet it's still on a straight line. Well, we've started with a bang this time. We've had three lovely horses all performing the test in a really nice way.
And a very good pirouette.
Yeah, lovely cantering. It's great when you can just see it canter around and not kind of see it change its canter.
So very good on the scale of things is 9. I don't think any of the judges have... I would have given it a 9, but I'm generous.
Yes, we
did
get some 8, so that's
got some
great.
8, yep.
Oh, but here you see then
Got
it said I got stuck because it sat quite a lot and it ran out of power and canter. But, she recovered. It went down to a 5 with one judge. On to the 4s. Beautifully over X for the third change, which is the ideal, is to place the changes on the diagonal evenly. And this is where experienced riders pick up marks because not only are they performing the movement technically well, they're also performing it accurately. Oh, dear. Okay, mistake in the 3s. Oh, perhaps I was wrong. Anyway, that's good for Emma. I thought I saw a 2. But
So a really lovely test there from Emma.
might not put her into first place.
Have to wait and see.
Have to wait and see. Oh no, it does look like it might.
So we have a new leader, Emma riding Scarlatti on 69.902.
And into the arena circling now is Sally Rizzuto. Sally's riding Quarterland. Quarterland is by Quarterback out of Holstein Park, Lieberly, owned by both Sally and Vicky Newham, and ridden by Sally, who's from Glenorrey, New South Wales.
So if you've just tuned in, you are watching the Pre-St George CDI class here at Dressage by the Sea 2024, and this class is sponsored by Ros Dio.
You get some different pictures. There's more cameras on the arena. We, of course, just sitting here at sea. We now have a screen so we can quickly have a cross, see what else you're seeing. And that, of course, is helpful. You'll see some of the mistakes or otherwise that are less apparent to us.
And that's really why they have the judges situated around the arena, and especially as the levels go up, you'll see later on today we will have 5 judges sitting around the arena. I'm very lucky to have a lot of these international judges that have come to give us their time and their expertise. Very important in an Olympic year.
Yeah, it's always lovely for as a rider to ride under a fresh face, and your eye is always drawn to the international's opinion, probably because you've had the Australian judge's opinion many times, so you enjoy having a new person judge you. Sometimes that's for the good, and sometimes it can be a little bit of a surprise when they aren't so nice to you.
This horse, we've really had a treat this morning with very lovely horses to start.
Yes, every one of them so far is a quality horse. Built for the job. Interesting part in the breeding of this horse is I see its mother is by Lander, and Lander was a very large Holstein Bay stallion that had certainly produced a lot of progeny. Also was quite successful, also in the jumping field, I think, as well. So we've got a little bit of what I would term the old-fashioned breeding in this horse, but on the immediate sire, quarterback, of course, that's very modern breeding. And we probably see both in the horse. Great type. Another square horse, not super long, but equally not super short. Great set of the neck. All those things are helpful. They make it easier for the horse to assume the position you'd like it to. So she's ticking along pretty well in a 65%. The half pirouette, the second one, not so good, mark-wise.
I'm quite lucky there on the screen. We can see that you're getting the scores to hand for each movement as well. Very lucky to have all these people with technology these days that you can sit at home and watch and instantly get the scores and feel like you're part of Dressage by the Sea.
So a little bit needed more jumping sidewards in that half pass to the left. Oh, no, dear. So kind of got unbalanced through the corner, changed legs. She probably said half halt, come back, and it said not so balanced. Anyway, the key to good riding in a test is to recover from things and go on and perform the next movement as well as you can.
Yeah, don't dwell on what's happened and concentrate on your next thing ahead. Super potential there for those pirouettes. It just needs a little bit more canter, doesn't it?
It does. I think maybe it's perhaps it's still at the beginning stage, but it hasn't quite come to grips with the fact that it has to stay collected and sit for the period of time. In general, I just want to say in this canter, I'd just say to her, come on, ride it a bit more positively. It's just a little bit losing some of its energy. Even this could be bigger.
Tentative,
yeah. Oh, and that halt's disappointing. So it collapsed rather than collected into the halt. So we have a score for Sally Rizzuto and Quarterland of 64.902 and fourth place currently. And just to remind our spectators that currently in the lead is Emma Flavel-Watts, riding Scarlatti Mio on 69.9%, closely followed by John Thompson on Sugarloaf Amnesty on 69.26.
We have our next horse entering the arena, Tanisha Ryan on Gembray Rattle and Hum. Rattle and Hum is a Hanoverian 13-year-old gelding by Riverside and owned by Tanisha Ryan and Gembray Warmbloods.
And so Tanisha, one of our younger riders, she's lives not far from, relatively speaking, not far from Willinga at Darks Forest, just a little bit north of Wollongong. We mentioned yesterday about the when you're riding for an accurate test, the movements are from a marker to a marker, and that marker, the movement starts when the rider's body is at the marker, not the horse's nose, unless it's heading along a diagonal line, and then its nose is the end of the movement or the beginning of the movement. And in this lateral work, particularly when they start the volte at B, E coming up, often riders tend to leave, like she did, early. And that makes this placement of that circle stay further back than it should, which means now she's got a longer half pass, and so she came to G early. So the walk pirouette's kind of tidily ridden, but needed more marching in the walk. Collected walk is a march with heightened steps, but also shortened steps. And then the extended walk is long steps over tracking. And here we want a little bit more suppleness in the way the horse walks. Very accurate into canter. Okay, so she's had a little struggle to get across, maintain the position in the first half pass. Finds it a bit easier going back to the right. Quite good preparation going into that pirouette. It's maintaining the jump in the canter through the counter canter. Nice clean change at sea. So again, you're getting a little bit of a side view of those changes, and so one of the things you can look for is the change the same size canter as the canter in between? Because that's what you'd like it to be. So for some, the change is bigger and the canter in between is shorter, and for others, it's the other way around. But the ideal is same big canter in collection for the diagonal. Tanisha certainly put together a very balanced test, no major flaws anywhere.
Very, very tidy.
Very tidy.
She obviously very happy there. We have our next horse entering the arena. Victoria Luxford riding Riverwood Animation, and she's a Hanoverian mare by Ampere, so another one by Ampere. And Tori, as we like to call her, is from Sydney, New South Wales. Interesting that you can see that a lot of these horses, you know, a stallion becomes popular and you can see quite a few of their progeny coming through. Like you see a lot of now Jazz on the dam side because Jazz was very popular. Obviously, she's seen herself in the reflection in the screen. Amperes can be known to be a little bit exuberant.
Yes, I think hot might be the description for many of them, but it's probably an unkind description because there's probably equally many that aren't.
I love a hot horse, though. I think at the end of the day, you want something that's got a motor and that's wanting to work. Sometimes can be a little challenging in the early days with a hot one. But she started well.
Yep, it's off. It says, I'm doing my big trot. Okay, so in the collected trot, it needs a little bit more suspension and cadence. It's got a little bit flat after that startling beginning. Nice crossing.
I think that's also always the dilemma when you've got a horse that may be a little bit, distracted, is that you tend to want to ride it forward. But then sometimes sacrificed is the cadence and the balance. Tori, another one choosing or opting to ride in the snaffle bridle.
I think Animation's having withdrawal symptoms from his friends. Or her friends.
I think sometimes I get asked, what happens if the horse whinnies in the test? Well, as long as it doesn't disturb the flow of the test in the outline, it's not penalised. And there we see a grounded pirouette. That's one where the hind legs stay in the sand or stay in the surface and pivot. And the judges obviously saw that as well. You're going to say that thing again, aren't you, where you want to say...
I am going to say that thing. Yes, across the short side, I wanted it to have more jump. I wanted its hind legs doing more work. So she'll need that more energy for this movement. Let's see what happens. It said, okay, I can sit. Good.
Beautiful changes
Yeah.
when she gets them.
Let's see if she can keep it for this one. So you can see a little bit of discussion about how it's going to collect. And a little bit slow, but she got through them. Ultimately could be a highlight for the horse.
It's definitely a nice style of horse. Another, what I call compact horse. It's like a little pocket rocket.
Yeah, and she rode those with a good timing, well placed. Go. This is the hard go because you're heading towards the red, scary red sign. A little bit quarters right on the centre line, but nice halt. And good patting, happy rider. And ticking along on a sort of around the 66 and maybe into third place. Something she's going to be very pleased with. And we have just one more horse to come in before there's a short break.
We have our next horse entering the arena, Georgia Foot, or Georgina Foot, riding Zoe. Zoe is a 12-year-old bay mare.
And we have a score for Victoria Luxford and animation of 66.863%. So you could only say that was quarters to the left. So the judges shouldn't mark that halt well. And yet we went from a 6 to a 7. And even the C judge still gave it a 6.
So I've just had a little research, and this is a horse by Zach. And it just says Zach, but I presume it's Blue Horse Zach, also a very famous dressage horse and breeding stallion.
Yes, well, you'd think you'd want to put that in your against your name. Blue Horse Zach's one of my favourite horses. Okay, so you can see the tilting of the head and the neck in that circle. So it's resistance.
Quite a big horse, isn't it? So opposed to those little compact numbers, this horse is a lot larger and a bit longer. So if you don't have those hind legs tucked under the body, they can do random things, like swing.
Yes, well, tilting, I think, really is a resistance to the bridle and the rider's inside rein. It's a little bit more comfortable to the right, but still some. It's kind of got a little bit of the bicycle look where it's leaning. So horses ideally are equally weighting on all four legs and therefore not like a bicycle, which we know doesn't have any legs, but you know the impression of bicycles going around turns is to lean in. That's not what the horse is supposed to do. It's supposed to stay upright. So there's some nice energy in that extended walk, quite good relaxation. And a good picture across the short side in the canter. Again, I think perhaps this rider goes for a little bit too much neck bend in her half passes, and that's part of the loss of balance. So whilst it was doing some sitting, it was taking a long time and too many jumps to get round the half pirouette. 3 to 4 strides in the half pirouette. Then again, some resistance to the bridle in the turning of the second pirouette. Oh, she rang the bell. Oh, of course she did extended canter when she should have done 5 4s.
So a course error.
So these days, course errors, you only get one before you can't have a second one. And of course, they now take 2% of the mark, the end mark that you've scored, off each judge.
So that's expensive.
Very, very costly.
I really like this style of horse, and it definitely can extend and can collect.
Yeah, I think it's another lovely horse.
There seems to be a little miscommunication today with the horse and rider. Maybe we don't know these horses. I don't get to see all of them all of the time, so it may be a new combination. I don't know. And that's always the hard thing when you make a course error, is to get back going again and get back on track. Don't let that thought enter your head again, and on to the next thing. Does just tend to not really want to go out to the bridle.
Yeah, so the course error certainly would detract from her score, but it's another lovely horse, which when the connection is better to the bridle, I think all things are possible with that horse. We have a short break for the spectators until 9:11. You might dash out and stretch your legs and possibly get a coffee, and then return at 9:11. And we will have a score, yes we do, for Georgina Foote, scored 64.568%, and putting her into 7th position. And I'll just give you a rundown of where we're up to so far. In the lead, is Emma Flavelle Watts, riding Scarlatti Mio with 69.9%. Closely followed by John Thompson on Sugarloaf Amnesty on 69.26%. In third, Victoria Luxford and Revelwood Animation, 66.863%. In fourth, Tanisha Ryan, Gembray Rattle and Hum, 66.177%. And in fifth, Lizzie Wilson Fellows, Let Chameur on 65.098.
So we'd like to welcome you back to the Prix St George CDI here at Dressage by the Sea. We have our next competitor entering the arena, Charlie Welsh on Dante Quando. And Charlie is from Victoria. The horse that Charlie's riding today is by a very famous stallion, Dante Weltino. And I'm pretty sure Dante Quando was a very successful young horse in Europe before he came out to Australia. Very impressive black stallion.
I was set off well in the medium trot, just didn't keep it going all the way. And again here in the shoulder in, position is okay, but a little unsteady in its carriage.
So another little Christine tip for you is the little green discs on the bridle are to show that the horse is a stallion. So when the horse is in the warm-up arena, horse with green discs or green dots on the saddle blanket, it means that it's a stallion.
So there across the short side, beautiful trot. But it has just shown in a few of the movements, just this a little bit, maybe it's playing with the bit a little bit, just not quite consistent in its frame. But this terrific trot, regardless of anything, it just keeps ticking along. Now we get a nice up-close view of it here, close to sea. Good, nice first walk pirouette. A little bit loss of control on that one. So she's off-reading the rein. It's got a great extended walk in its length of stride. It's not quite as prepared to take the bridle forward. Lovely sidewards jumping, but and no but to that. Good change at X and nicely done again at M. So it has the ability to reach sidewards. Here for the sitting, looking at sitting, bending the hocks, turning. Yeah, nicely done. counter canter, flexion to the left or to the outside, but as we say, to the leading leg. Here again, sitting, so good bending again. You can see it sit on its hocks, lower and come out. They should score, I think, a little bit higher than 7. But you know it's not me putting the marks in the box. And with stride that big, it is quite hard for 5/4s to be fitted in. And there was a little bridle issue halfway along. This is just keeping her marks down off what could be easily be an 8. Mistakes in the 3s, the 3 times changes.
So just unfortunate, those couple of little miscommunications and errors will bring that score down, because definitely has the potential for some very high marks.
Yeah, it's certainly a very nice horse. Really, we've only had nice horses this morning. So a score for Charlie Welsh and Dante Quando of 66.177%, and putting her into 4th place currently. Our next horse is coming, one hopes, which is due to be Alexis Hellier and Feederbus. Thanks again to our sponsor of this class, Rose Dio, and our overall sponsor of 4CYTE by the Dressage by the Sea is 4CYTE. And of course, we're always eternally grateful to Terry and Jeanette Snow for allowing this competition to be run here on the most beautiful property, Willinga Park.
Our next rider, Alexis Hellier on Feederbus. Feederbus is also he's an 8-year-old stallion by Florescant and owned by Alexis Hellier and Elliot Patterson.
What, so just wide?
So for those of you at home, Alexis did the CDI, the Pre-St George yesterday, the CDN, and today she's chosen to do the CDI.
But it's a different set of judges and it's a different day. So she did a lovely test yesterday and won the class.
It's a very elegant stallion, isn't it?
Yeah, he really is. He's not big, but he's bouncy, expressive. I think we need just a little bit more for extended trot in this one. So she made that, had a little bit of a mistake in that early shoulder in, and that's kept her mark a little bit lower at 66 or thereabouts currently. Can she work her way back up to the top of the pack? I'm sure she can.
It just goes to show that one mistake can be very expensive. Talk about the riders being brave and bold. I mean, but the downside to being brave and bold is sometimes that you make a mistake.
That's it. And of course, often the way of dressage is to make you ride what we call a clean test without a mistake.
Not always going to win you the test.
But it's not always going to win you the test. It might win you the test, but is it going to make the horse the best it can be? And in training, for sure, you need to be always training to make the horse better. So you have to take risks in training. But in the test, you certainly
maybe
obviously make a compromise and say, okay, I can't push that button quite as hard. But here in Australia, we need to learn to ride with more flamboyance
and take more risks.
Yeah. Show these horses off more. And maybe, encourage our judging to be braver as well with the giving and the taking of marks. Good, so nice sitting and cantering through the pirouette. And that one you lost the balance in the pirouette. It's a bit falling to the right rather than balanced around her inside leg.
Alexis, another one that has placed that middle change right over X, which is what we want to see. the placement of the middle change over X. Alexis, a very experienced competitor.
So I think they're a bit slow to get into extended canter, and she's not taking the risks that she, I think, took more of yesterday. And perhaps today the horse may either be...
It's only a baby.
It's only a baby. It may be a bit tired. There is a few more spectators and a bit more atmosphere, although he didn't look phased, but maybe he was. All these things go to make a difference, but as we all know, those of us that ride, that one day is different from the next. Circling the arena, next competitor, Nicole McGoffin, riding Harakaido. Nicole is riding for New Zealand, and she is listed as being from Mount Nathan in New Zealand. Harakaido is a bay warm blood gelding, 12 years old, by Heinrich Heine, out of a mare called Garter.
We'd like to thank Rose Dio for sponsoring this pre-St George CDI class here at Dressage by the Sea 2024.
National class, the riders ride either for Australia or for New Zealand, as Nicole is riding for New Zealand. And also John Thompson, who was previously in the class and will appear again. So we have the international flavour, apart from the judges. I feel Nicole used to reside in Queensland. Okay, so a little bit tight in the back in this trot. Again, some tilting as it's coming off the shoulder in and into the circle. Nice crossing, rhythmical trot in the half pass, well maintained. So, Sweet Horse got a little distracted both at the beginning of that walk pirouette and at the end, but kept going. Little ears are pricked. I think it's thinking, wow, this is a...
Nice show.
Ooh, this is a big show. Prepared to relax and stretch in its extended walk, so that's good. Both half passes well placed and well managed. With more jump, would get a higher mark. Keep the canter, keep the canter. Oh, yes. A little bit of sidewards in that half pirouette. So again, the horse is supposed to turn around the inside hind leg, which can describe a small circle, very small, but
not a sideways
but not sideways, yes.
That one was better.
That's right. It was, I agree.
See what the judges say. Good in the counting.
Good in the counting. I've just had a helpful person tell me that Nicole is still in Queensland and that Mount Nathan is in Queensland. So, even though our piece of paper says it's in New Zealand, we are suitably corrected, and thank you for that help.
We need all the help we can get.
We need help. We don't have very much information. But she is still riding under the New Zealand banner, despite that.
She is she?
Yes,
Is that
she
correct?
is. Well, I hope so.
It doesn't say New Zealand on the screen, so I'm...
No, it does. That's New Zealand's
Oh,
flag.
that's the New Zealand flag, okay.
Yes. And she's doing a mighty fine job.
I'm sure New Zealand are very proud of her.
I think so. And we could have her on our team at getting a score of 67.5 or thereabouts at this point. She's pleased. The horse has performed in a good way. And a score for Nicole McGoffin, riding Harakaido, 67.843%, placing her in third position. Still out in front is Emma Flavelle-Watts on Scarlatti Mio on 69.9%. Circling the arena, our next competitor is John Thompson, riding MSJ Gatsby. Gatsby is an 8-year-old black Oldenburger gelding by Grey Flanell out of MSJ Fennet Meta, owned by Jane Farrell, bred by Emma Blundell and ridden by John, who's from Berrily in New South Wales, but is riding under the New Zealand flag.
So for those of you at home interested in the breeding, MSJ is Mount St John. It's a very famous stud in England, owned by Emma Blundell, and she has another very famous horse that she bred that may be going to Paris. Just have to wait and see. So this is John's second ride for this class.
Medium trot. Good cadence in its trot. Could be a little bit bendier in its rib cage in that shoulder in. It's another light-footed horse. Again, needs...
Very good placement of that circle. We were talking before about where the circle should be performed. That was a good example.
And there, side-on view, you can see full extension, lovely engagement of its hind legs. You've always got to remember that the two judges at the side, or one in this case, get the side view that you just got, so they can make a comment about that, whereas the judges at this end really can only look at the hind legs coming from behind.
What do you call it? The trot.
They get less of a view of the frame of the horse. So it has for me, it finds it easier to bend to the right. And I can happily say that the judges agreed with me on that. Sometimes I make a comment and they haven't agreed. Can't imagine why.
That's dressage, isn't it? It's subjective. People can have, some people have an opinion about one thing or another, and I think that's what's so good about the sport. Is that you get the opinion quite often from a few judges, and they don't always see the same things. I think when it's really, really good, though, they normally all tend to agree that it's really good.
Yes, it's easy to see, I think, really good. Good is easy. It's not hard. It's very easy. If you sit there and give 8s to judge a horse, that's actually easy judging. It's actually harder judging between 5 and 7.
Because there's so many variants.
There's so many variants, and it is a grey area. And
but it's the overall picture, isn't it? It's the overall harmony and unity of the horse and rider.
Yes, and for sure that's
For the high marks.
a harmonious picture will often be the one that comes out in front versus the highlights and lowlights in another test. It's ticking along well at the moment, John, with some good scoring. Here a little struggle in that pirouette to maintain the sitting and maintain the canter. But at pre-St George level, it's only a half pirouette, but they have been introduced to pirouettes, half pirouettes in the advanced test beforehand.
But probably a little bit big, hey, for that.
Oh, definitely too big.
Yeah. And I always think that the first...
And better again to the right.
The first quarter maybe should be smaller than the second. As a rider, you think maybe smaller and then bigger. Because a lot of people tend to go bigger and then smaller at the end, which overshoots your line out, which makes it difficult. John always paints such a nice picture there on the short side. Did you do the counting?
I was counting, and he was correct.
He's very happy to give sevens. A lot of sevens coming in.
So I think for this little horse,
relatively new to this
it's
level.
obviously new to this level and this environment, and it had a big spook at the red sign before. So concentration, so there was just a little bit of, in some movements, where he just didn't always stay completely consistent.
Maybe a little green.
I call it little, but it is 16.3, so there's nothing little about it.
It's a neat little horse. A neat horse, isn't
It's
it?
a neat horse, yeah. Anyway, it's going to score just about 68%. Not quite as good as his other horse, but it's probably going to put him into third position. Circling the arena, our next competitor, Justine Greer, riding Bloomfield Sakuna. Sakuna is a 9-year-old warm blood gelding by Szechuan out of Anook, owned by Karen Hunt, bred by Bloomfield Farm, and ridden from by Justine Greer, who's from New Gisborne in Victoria.
So for those of you at home, this is the second horse in this class that is out of Anook. John's first horse was out of Anook. Anook, an imported mare to Australia by the famous stallion Jazz. And this horse is by the stallion Szechuan, which was a world young horse champion. Obviously a very successful breeding mare. I know there's a few others around out of that mare.
Yes, to have two in one class at the same level is really interesting.
And the mare line is really important. Like, you know, The genetics from the mother.
John's mare was 12. This one is only 8. 9, sorry. So there may have been a couple more in between. And quite different types. It says one is a big horse, and so this has got the look of a big horse at 17.1, weightier.
He might be offended by you calling him weightier.
Well, I didn't say fatter.
No, but I think it's chunkier.
Chunkier.
Or solider.
Right.
No, solider's not a very good
solid
word.
is a bad word.
Chunkier.
More solid.
More solid.
Yes.
Okay. But not weighty. I'd be offended if you called me weighty.
I would too. So I retract that. So in the trot, just getting a little flat in the lateral work. And in the pirouettes, it's got a big walk, which she's managed to contain, just a little bit quick. But it should be able to get a good score for this extended walk.
Yes. Justine, another one of our very seasoned competitors, very good at producing horses. It's been a very good class to watch.
Yeah, maintaining that well. Justine, I think, won the intermediate 2 class yesterday with her other horse called Fonzie. And I think here she has another capable horse for the future, remembering that Prix St George is the beginning of the FEI classes, and what you hope you're seeing here is the horses that will go on and do Grand Prix
And develop.
in a couple more years. And as Christine said, this has been a really good class. They've all been very good types of horses that look like they're the sort that can go on, and the training and their performance has been very constant as a group of horses. So that's great for the future.
I mean, at 8 years old, he can only be in his first year at this level. He can only enter Prix St George, I think, when they're 7. And she should be really happy with that. We'd like to thank the sponsor of this class again, Rose Dio. Dressage by the Sea 2024. If you're thinking about coming down, we still have another 2.5.
Yeah. And sorry about that. We had a small technical hitch.
We thought we'd had the sack.
Someone had cut us. So you're watching Matthew Lord on Remy Vigneron. Is that how we say it?
Yes, who's a chestnut stallion by Viscount out of Remy Love Story.
And owned by Cheryl O'Brien. And Cheryl runs a very successful stud in Queensland called Remy Stud. Produced a lot of fantastic horses over the years. And this is a stallion. I I'd love to know what the sire of Remy Love Story is.
Well, possibly...
Someone might tell us.
Her stallion was...
Fisherman's Friend was one.
The black one.
Gone out of your head. Out of mine
Yes,
as well.
names not coming. Focusing on this lovely chestnut stallion in front of us, lovely canter across the short side. Could be a Londonderry mare, do you think? Yeah, could, because we've got the chestnut. Although I think Viscount maybe is chestnut too. Oh no, Viscount might be a black horse. No, that's possible, yes. I'll go with a Londonderry mare. There you go. Doesn't mean I'm right. Okay, so we're now back online. We now have some scores to stare at, which is helpful. Okay, so a little bit of nodding in this canter pirouette, which means he's having a little trouble accepting taking the weight on the hindquarter and maintaining his frame. It's got a good canter, and that's where I was talking about the changes and the canter being the same on the line. So we'll watch again on this side.
We've just had confirmation it's Laurie's As.
Oh, Laurie's As. See, that was who I was thinking of when I said the black stallion. Just the name didn't come. That's terrific. Thank you for whoever sent us that message. Yeah, some really lovely changes. Again, not quite getting to the mark of 8 and good with our judges today. 7.5, but not quite hitting 8. But in true Queensland fashion, we obviously have a Queensland contingent happy with that. We've got a big cheer from the crowd. He's above 68%. So there'll be a little change in the rankings. He's the last competitor in this class. And that was Matthew Lord riding Remy Vigneron, and has come in third position with 68.53%. We had a little problem with the technical aspect here, so we didn't get to introduce him to you. For the crowd, Remy Vigneron is a 10-year-old chestnut stallion. He's by Viscount out of Remy Love Story, who is a Laurie's As mare, owned by Cheryl O'Brien originally and bred by Cheryl and ridden by Matthew Lord, who was from Greenbank in Queensland. So that concludes the class, and here is our scoreboard. So in first place, Emma Flavel Watts and Scarlatti Meo with 69.902%. In second place, John Thompson riding Sugarloaf Amnesty, 69.265%. Third place, Matthew Lord, Remy Vigneron on 68.530%. Fourth, John Thompson on his second horse, MSJ Gatsby, 67.99%. Fifth, Nicole McGuffin, Harakaido, 67.843%. And sixth place, Victoria Luxford, Revelwood Animation on 66.86%. We thank our judges and our sponsor of that class, Rose Dio, and we are ready to return here after a short break at 10:20 with the Grand Prix CDN. So 10:20, you've got 20 minutes, rush off, get a coffee, visit the trade stands, and back you come for 10:20 in the indoor arena.